If you are a game master, you know exactly how frustrating it can be when you work really hard to create a cool NPC and then your players totally blow them off. It's like they don't even care. So today we're going to be discussing 15 things that all NPCs in tabletop RPGs such as D&D and Pathfinder must have if you want your players to care about them. Actually, 15 is ridiculous. You know what? Just a couple of these things drastically increase the chances of creating an NPC that players will engage with and perhaps will even come to love. Number 1, wants and desires. Know what the NPC wants. A shopkeeper may want to make money, but they also want to ensure a positive reputation or get friendly adventurers to recommend them to other adventurers. They may also have other specific goals like being more successful or having a better reputation than another shop owner, or wanting to move up in the guild to gain power or status in their trade. Number 2, fears. Know what the NPC is afraid of. A guard may be afraid of getting a demotion if they screw up one more time, or fear missing out on a promotion if they appear to be lax in their duties. They may also have a more tactile fear, such as fear of dogs, or a more high concept fear, like fear of political change, that will result in a duke who is less accommodating to guards. Number 3, likes and dislikes. Know what the NPC likes or dislikes. It's likes or dislikes, you got it. Maybe they don't like noisy customers or wizards because of one who accidentally damaged his shop, or they just don't like dwarves. Maybe they really like chatty customers that they can pass the time with, or they like elves because they're fascinated with their history, or they like people who wear purple. Whatever it is, it should be something likely to come up during PC-NPC interaction. And you may be asking, what's the point of all these numbers and lists and things they like and don't like and fear? It's so you can roleplay them better. It's so that you can portray them better at the game table. It's to help you improvise what they say, improvise what they do as your players are interacting with them. It's to help make your NPCs more interesting, to give them depth, to give them more little things that your players are likely to find appealing and cause them to latch onto and enjoy your NPCs. Now, what if I told you that you could get all of my game master knowledge and experience pulled out of my head and put into an easy to read book? Also, how would you like to have the same templates I personally use in my games when designing my campaigns, adventures, and taking notes after the game? If that sounds like something you'd like, then you're in luck. And if you don't want that, then you can probably just skip over this video a little bit. Anyway, our last Kickstarter, The Secret Art of Game Mastery, is live now and crushing stretch goals. Well, I hope it is. Basically, my team and I have taken our combined Game Master experience over 100 years worth and crammed it all into one book. And his 2 companion books give you all the templates and guidance you need to create and run your own games. Furthermore, everything we created is system agnostic and will work for any game and any genre. And one of the best parts is that all 3 books are already written, meaning that fulfillment will happen super fast. Backers will get the PDFs almost as soon as the Kickstarter ends, and physical books will ship out as soon as we know how many to order and our printer can churn them out. Click the link below to back The Secret Art of Game Mastery now. You gotta do it now. If you don't do it now, there's no tomorrow. Okay, there's tomorrow. You can do it. I'm gonna stop now. That's me making fun of all of the advertisements we listen to where people are like, do it now, don't delay, today, woo! Sorry, I'm gonna just do the rest of the video now. Number 4, quirks. A memorable accent, a scar on their cheek, an eye patch, or they have certain body language that they use. They lean forward a lot, they stand up, or they pace back and forth, or they slouch more than usual. So there's some slouching going on right here. I don't know, it's kind of a lean. It's a heavy lean, not a slouch. Slouch. I don't know. You get the idea. And these can be visual cues or they can be audible ones as well. Both work equally well. And as a game master, try to do those things at the table as the NPC is doing them in the narrative. If the NPC is slouching, you can be slouching. If the NPC gestures with their hands as they talk, then you can do the same thing. Number 5, verbal affectations. Expressions, sayings, slang, etc. Have there be a memorable way of speaking for your NPCs, like ending every sentence with, you know. You don't need to be able to act out in an accent or change your voice to add some sort of catchphrase or verbal affectation to your NPCs. Number 6, a unique voice. Of course, your NPCs could obviously have a unique way of talking, and it doesn't have to be an accent such as all dwarves speaking Scottish, because it's only right that dwarves speak like this. Am I right or am I right? It's actually probably a really bad Scottish accent. Everybody who's from Scotland can just flame me in the comments, thank you. But you could also, besides doing an accent, you can just raise or lower the pitch of your voice. Just make your voice unique. Like you could talk like this, for instance. Or just get, oh, I slipped back into the dwarf voice. Let's do an evil voice. All right, there you go. Let's do this. That might be a Batman voice. I don't know. But you just change your voice. You don't have to replicate an accent. Some of us, like me, are probably really bad at replicating accents, even though I try really hard. Number 7, a place in the social hierarchy. Where does the NPC stand in society? Are they low or are they high? Are they a common peasant who works in the fields? Or are they a nobleman? And where does the NPC stand in their own strata of society? You could have a duke, for instance, who is high overall, but who is also on the chopping block, and even lesser nobles hold sway over him because of something from his backstory, his past that has gotten out and is being passed around throughout his circles. And you might have a peasant who mostly shuffles poop around out in the field because I guess that's a thing, but they might have sway over other peasants who shuffle around things more unsavory than poop. I don't know what that would be, but I think you get my point. And here's a pro tip as well, something that I've found in my games that tend to work really well. If you have an NPC who is silly or weak and pathetic, that tends to resonate with players. They seem to enjoy this. I don't think it's because players are weak and pathetic or silly. I think it's just because they interpret that is adorable or something, and they tend to like that, and then they want to adopt these NPCs and be friends with them for some reason. Gary the Intern is a famous example of mine, just kobold who has this high-pitched voice, who's just very silly and weak and pathetic. But almost all players universally have loved Gary the Intern for some reason, and I can only attribute that to being silly, weak, and pathetic, and probably having this high-pitched, adorable, I presume, voice. Yeah, Gary the Intern talks like this, and I'm really just interested in my 401k. And I'd rather not die, thank you. I don't know, it just works. Somebody's gonna be in the comments and be like, your Gary the Intern sucks. I've always hated Gary the Intern. That's fair. That's fair. Not everybody likes everything, I suppose. Number 8, something they're doing. Have your NPCs doing something. NPCs don't just stand there like lumps. A bartender is cleaning glasses. A shopkeeper is restocking shelves. A guard keeps glancing around while talking to the NPCs. Or the PCs, I suppose. Most people don't stop everything they're doing when they talk to someone. They may be attentive, but they might still shift their stance, sit down in the middle of a conversation, or even sneeze. Not gonna replicate sneezing here for you, sorry. But just have something going on, something that they're doing that makes the encounter with the NPC dynamic. If you watch movies, what you'll notice that they do is when there's a conversation going on between a couple people or a few people, most of the time they don't just stand there. There's something else going on. There's the famous walking scenes where they're walking together and the camera's backtracking, following them as they talk, or they're doing something. They don't just stand there like lumps and talk. There's action going on because that makes things more interesting. Number 9, names that are easy to say and remember. This is pretty simple. Use names that are easy to say and remember. I know that many of us play fantasy games and it's pretty much the norm for long, complicated names that are almost impossible to pronounce and have tons of what I like to call fantasy apostrophes in them. But the problem is that even though Giraffe may look cool on paper, I think it does, I don't know. If the players can't pronounce it, or they can't remember it, they won't remember the NPC. Or if they do remember the NPC, it'll be a joke about this guy whose name they can't pronounce. And remember that one guy over there called oh yeah, I know about him. Yeah. You see, something like Steven Silvershield is far easier to remember than Skethereft Jorbolor. Wow. My video editor is gonna put the spelling of that right here on screen for you because, wow. It looks like a nice fantasy name, but you can't pronounce it, you can't remember it, and your players are gonna be like, how do you spell that? Oh, by the way, a related but unrelated note, be prepared for players to create pet names, especially if the name you give is hard to pronounce. For example, I had a gnome once in one of my games, my Wonder Panda campaign, called Pit and Pop Green Feet. Green Feet. Pit and Pop Green Feet. And my players truncated or changed that name to, you guessed it, Pudding Pop. But you know, there's nothing actually hard to pronounce about Pit and Pop Green Feet. I think my players were just being players and they decided that Pudding Pop just was his name. By the way, if you're finding this information useful, please give me a thumbs up and share this video with others. One of the best ways you can help your fellow game masters is by sharing helpful content. And I, of course, am biased, so I think this content is helpful. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't be making it. Number 10, reflections of the PCs. Basically, you use NPCs that reflect the PCs. NPCs that are a reflection of or in opposition to a PC's personality, code, or attitude. For instance, the NPC could hold up a mirror to one or more of the PCs that will be engaging and memorable. Maybe an NPC shares a paladin's code of honor, or has the cleric's holy symbol hanging on his shop wall because of his devout worship of that deity. Or maybe they think the cleric's deity is overrated, or have signs up warning that thieves will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law if one of the PCs is a rogue with sticky fingers. Number 11, cast them. This involves describing the NPC using real-world people as a reference, whether they are an actor, athlete, or other celebrity, or just someone everyone in the group knows. You can add or remove traits, like saying something like, he looks like a young Harrison Ford with an eye patch and a scar on his cheek. And that sort of thing makes an NPC easy to envision and remember, and can also give the players an idea about what they sound like. Now, for the record, I'm really bad at this. I have like almost no pop culture knowledge. It's my worst Trivial Pursuit category, and I almost never do this in my games because I'm fairly incapable of doing it. But if you can do it, then go for it. Number 12, one at a time. Don't introduce multiple NPCs at once if you're trying to engage the PCs. I mean, if you have one NPC, they can talk to all of the PCs at once, and that will get everybody involved with that one NPC and that interaction that's going on and learning more and experiencing more about that one NPC. However, if you have multiple NPCs engaging in multiple conversations, you're now splitting your own attention as a game master, reducing your ability to fully flesh out and develop all of the NPCs. And you're also taking the various players and their characters' attention away from a central NPC, and you're casting their attention to multiple NPCs. Focus is going to help you flesh out and develop one NPC at a time, way much better than having many of them that you're trying to describe. That spotlight on one NPC also helps you to have that focus of running that one NPC, making sure that you can make them more engaging and memorable because you're doing fewer things at once. Number 13, limits. Define the limits of what the NPC will do. A shopkeeper may not want to spend all day talking to potential customers when there are more customers outside or in their shop that have questions or are interested in buying things. A sage might not have all the information right at that moment and may need to do additional research. A guard may grow tired of the PCs trying to talk their way out of something and failing and just arrest them or tell them to move on. Give the NPCs a reason to not engage in a never-ending social encounter. An NPC that has a reason to stop talking is more memorable than one that just lets the PCs control the duration of a conversation. Number 14, reference other NPCs. Here you can have NPCs reference other NPCs even if the characters have never met them. I mean, in the game world, think about it. People know other people, and an NPC that only seems to know the characters is less realistic. A blacksmith, for instance, that gets interrupted by an apprentice saying that someone is there to pick up a batch of horseshoes makes them feel much more realistic. Number 15, don't force it. If the characters or your players don't seem interested in a specific NPC, just let them move on. If the NPC is important, they'll meet them again and have another chance, but don't try to force an NPC down players' throats, or they'll just just resist the NPC all the more, feeling they're being railroaded into liking someone. It is a much more realistic and better strategy to just create your NPCs, run your NPCs in the game. Players are going to like them or not like them, and then when they do latch on to an NPC that they really like, well, perhaps that NPC is a reoccurring NPC and comes back and they meet him again in the future. So you're basically just throwing out lots of different lines of NPCs, seeing which ones the characters, your players, are going to bite at, and then double down on the NPCs that they do enjoy, or the ones that they hate, because an NPC that they hate and revile can be just as interesting and fun in the game as one that they love. However, those are just my suggestions for creating compelling NPCs that players will love. What do you think? How do you create NPCs in your games? And don't forget to back the secret art of game mastery today! Level up your game mastering with the tools and information my team and I personally use. Now, creating an awesome NPC in advance is all good and well, but you know that you'll need to improvise one sooner or later. And if you want to avoid the top improvisation mistakes that game masters often make, watch this video right here. And until next time, happy game mastering.